up, guys? It's TJ Schaefer. Thanks for tuning into the Huntcast. It's episode 143, and I got Jace with me.
What's going on, guys?
And Big Paul.
What's up?
And we got a special guest today, but before we introduce him, let me first take care of our housekeeping. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at the Huntcast. Also on Facebook, it's at the Huntcast as well. And all of these episodes have video content that go along with them. And today's going to be a good one. So be sure you go to youtube.com/thehuntcast and subscribe there and check out this episode. It's going to be a good one. Also on TikTok at the Huntcast Podcast. And then don't forget patreon.com/thehuntcast. You can go there and support the show with a $5, $10, or $25 a month pledge. We would really appreciate it. And so there we go, boys. It's time. And today I got on my turkey shirt. I don't know if y'all noticed.
I noticed
or not.
it.
Okay. And I think last weekend was the first day of turkey season. Is that right? In most of Texas?
South Zone.
South Zone. Okay. So today we have a very, very special guest that I'm excited about. This is actually like 2 years in the making, believe it or not. And we have Mr. James Hardin. Is that correct?
That's pretty close.
Okay.
That's close. It's
Come
not
on
James.
James.
You keep trying.
John.
Look to your right.
Look, you want to try Justin?
No, just tell me
go
what
with Jason.
Look to your right.
What am I looking at?
Me.
Jason Hardin. God
Like
dang
looking
it.
in a mirror.
Yeah, man. I don't know what
Right
the crap.
here, I mean,
I get all jacked up on this podcast, and I can't
You've
think.
been taking them 12s, huh?
Well, I'm about to. It's not.
He's
it's not-
tired.
Yeah, I am tired.
He's
I am
sleepy,
wore
man.
out.
We went to New Mexico, and we went to New Mexico on spring forward, spring break. But then we fell back an hour in New Mexico, and when we came back, TJ and I are like getting used to spring forward time now. Like that's how I'm feeling anyway. Like spring forward is a whipping.
Well, I mean, everybody knows that I wake up early anyway. I woke up at 3:30 this morning, and I laid down on the couch and started watching.
Who's the boss?
No, no. I watched the Colonel and the Fox, the mossyoak documentary on turkeys. I've been doing my research, boys.
Man, hey.
So
Jason, get ready. Buckle up.
Colonel Tom Kelly?
Yeah, the Colonel and the Fox. It was the mossyoak documentary on where they basically repopulated Alabama, Mississippi, basically the South, other than East Texas, with turkeys. And dude, I didn't realize this. So let's just jump right into it, guys. This episode is all about turkey hunting and turkeys in general. Okay. For those that listen to this podcast, you guys know that we do not have turkeys or a lot of turkeys in East Texas. We do not have hunting seasons for turkeys in a lot of the counties in East Texas. And I got a map that we'll show in a minute. But we just don't have them. And what's crazy is like East Texas looks like the entire Southeast. Like it's exactly like, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Florida. Like it looks a lot like all that. But yet they have a ton of turkeys and we don't have anything. And so through that investigation through that wonder of what was going on, we got a hold of Jason, and he enlightened us big time. We were actually in Florida. The first time we talked, Jason and I were at a bar in Florida, in Gainesville, Florida. I remember like it was yesterday. It was 2 years ago. And we were in a bar in Florida. We were fixing to catch our flight from Gainesville back to Texas. We had just shot a couple Osceolas, and we were like, why don't we have turkeys in East Texas? And I found your number, and I called you. You called me back, and I went outside and stood on the street right next to University of Florida and talked to you about it. And you shared with me something that I thought was pretty incredible. We just assumed that, like, I guess the big rumors like fire ants got them. Like everybody blames everything in East Texas on freaking fire ants. And it's not. You told me kind of the story of like market hunting. So why don't you share that, just because that's not just affecting Texas. That's like the whole United States that almost got wiped out on turkeys. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, if you look through the history, East Texas probably had, and it's just some conjecture out there, that historic maps, things like that, but probably 100,000 acres of occupied habitat in East Texas prior to European settlement. So a ton of turkeys. A landscape the size of South Carolina, at one time, East Texas was occupied by wild turkeys. So people start moving into East Texas, and you get these market hunters. They're one of the first groups to come in. There's no regulations. There's no laws. They can shoot them off the roost. They can trap them. Hens, gobblers, whatever, all year long.
And when we talk about market hunters, the thing that I kind of go back to is like the movie The Revenant. Isn't that what it's called with Leonardo?
Yes.
Where he gets ate up by the bear.
Right.
Like one of the most violent scenes ever. That's basically a market. They were hunting like for pelts and stuff, but that's what market hunters were, right? They came in and
you can think about the buffalo hunters or whatever it is. So there are these markets out east, and they've already wiped out their turkey populations out east, so they're constantly moving further and further west. They finally make it to Texas. They come in, and they're just a bunch of young guys, ammo, trying to make a living. They're getting paid to go out and shoot a bunch of stuff and send it back east. So probably not the worst job in the world.
no, man, it sounds like a lot of fun. But and I didn't quite finish introducing you because I got so jacked up on your name. My bad. But we have Jason Hardin here with Texas Parks and Wildlife. You are the, I guess, the biologist that's in charge of all things turkey.
Yeah, so the official title is the Wild Turkey Program Leader for Texas Parks and Wildlife.
Okay, great. Dude, I'm really jacked up about this. We love turkey hunting. We love it. Mm-hmm. Of course, we have to travel everywhere to do it.
Yep.
And so this is just a really, really special episode for us. We in that market hunting, so when you say back east, is this like what year is this? What year did all this?
In Texas, you're looking at the 1880s until around the turn of the 20th century.
Okay.
Is when the bulk of that's occurring. So, we get our citizenship, people start pouring in. They're settling in East Texas, throughout Texas, where the Comanches aren't keeping them out. And you're either growing it if you're living there. If you're a settler, you're growing it or you're shooting it to eat it, right? You're not going down to the local super center and getting your food. So those people had an impact. But then you had those market hunters at the same time. They just go anywhere and everywhere they want to. There weren't a lot of people in the landscape. And like I said, any way they could get those animals, they got them, shipped them back east.
So this was a big deal, and my history is horrible, okay? Like, I love history, but my history is horrible. Was it like the 1920s that the federal government got involved? And what is the act called in the 1920s?
Lacey Act.
Lacey Act. Is that when was that in the 20s?
It would have been probably in the 20s or 30s. So you think about Theodore Roosevelt coming in and setting up all these different programs. And that was one of the programs that was set up to try to keep those birds from being shipped out. It was targeting market hunters. Absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
But
that's what I thought.
We're at the bottom of the barrel at that point.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Because, turkey hunting is, it's very, very exciting. But I'm trying to think of a time, Jason, you can help me here, that we heard turkeys and weren't able to at least get a shot off at one. Can you think of a time that we just couldn't get them?
Well, when we went hunting down at the Bat Cave.
That's right. Yeah, they were
all
henned up.
around us.
They were henned up
never
bad.
would commit.
We ended up seeing some hens. We never saw any toms. But I say that to say, like, turkeys are not the hardest thing to hunt. Now, either that or we've just had really, really good luck. Mm-hmm. Or we're like world champion callers, which I don't think is the case. But, I would think it would be pretty easy to wipe out a population of turkeys if that's what your job was.
Yeah. And imagine going to a place that these birds really weren't pursued either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So they weren't the most wily of birds, I would imagine.
Yeah.
They had to get there pretty quick. But just talking about overall numbers, so the Game Fish and Forestry Commission, the predecessor of Texas Parks and Wildlife, in 1941 estimated that across that 100,000 acres, only 100 wild turkeys remained.
That's insane.
So you talk about a population, just trying to compare size-wise. Mm-hmm. We're the size of South Carolina. South Carolina estimates a population of about 100,000 birds today. So conservatively, imagine there was 100,000 birds in East Texas, pretty consistent, and those guys took it down to 100 birds by 1940.
It's insane, dude. Like, insane. And then, you have, I guess, the predators and such as well that put a hurting on the rest of those 100 birds or whatever. It blows my mind that, as target rich of an environment as East Texas is for hunting in general, we don't have any turkeys.
Yeah.
Now, I know that we have some, okay? Like, I know that there are some. I have not ever heard a turkey. We lived in Bowie County, which I know Bowie County, the north half of Bowie County, has a turkey season and a pretty decent population, from what I understand. But the south half doesn't have a turkey season. I've never heard a turkey other than at our deer lease in Anderson County, and I hadn't even heard them. We've seen them. Mm-hmm. I haven't actually heard them. There's just no freaking turkeys here. I live on 80 acres. I've never even thought about hearing a turkey where I live in Upshur County. Yeah. Okay. Tavares, bring up that map real quick. So we had a map built. This is showing the turkey seasons in East Texas. Okay. And anything that's in that pinkish color has a 2-bag limit, and anything in green 4. So yeah, good job. Yeah, way to keep me. Anything in green has a one bird limit. Okay, and so zoom in on East Texas. You can see here in this map, they had to do it by county. So sure. All those northern counties just show the whole county and not just the north of 82, which Highway 82 is the road that runs east to west, that cuts the counties in half, basically. There's just nothing here, man. And it's crazy because, like, to me, this is where land is thick, or where there's a lot of timberland and a lot of habitat, I guess you could say, for wild turkeys. And yes, we may have some, but there are no hunting seasons in any of these counties that aren't highlighted for East Texas.
Yeah. One thing interesting about Highway 82, if you go north of 82, it's a lot of post oak savanna and piney woods. You go south of 82, there's a blackland prairie strip that goes through there. So there actually is a habitat change. There's an ecotone there.
Okay.
It probably had some impact on the distribution of turkeys in that area.
And that's probably also to do with, like, the Red River Basin, which is north of 82.
Yeah. And then the Sulphur River Basin, which is more blackland prairie-like.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense. And I don't want to jump ahead here, but one of the questions I wanted to talk to you about is, east in Louisiana, let's say, they're primarily going to be eastern birds. Is that correct?
Correct. And
then when you have these highlighted counties here, which is basically anything west of Interstate 45, I guess, ish, kind of, which runs from Dallas to Austin, I guess. Everything west of that is Rios.
Yep.
So one of the questions I always had is the reason why we don't have a good population of turkeys in East Texas is because maybe it's not a good habitat for Rios, and maybe it's not a good habitat for eastern. I mean, it's kind of weird that if you had a gun held to your head and said, create a dividing line for eastern and Rios, it's pretty much going to be East Texas.
Yeah.
Have you guys ran into that at all when you're talking about repopulating East Texas with maybe the easterns don't take well or the Rios don't take well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you look at the history of restoration in East Texas, we've thrown everything at it, right? So way back in the day, we were putting Rios all the way out in Jasper, Newton County, in some of that landscape, and they hung on for a couple of decades.
Couple of decades.
Wow. And then we had a breeding facility in Tyler. So we were incubating eggs that game wardens go out, we assume, of wild nest and not just the game farm, and then had our own game farm system, released thousands of pen-raised birds. Complete failure. Complete waste of money, time, effort. Unfortunately, we stuck with it for 40 years trying to make that happen. To this day, people are letting pen-raised birds out on the landscape, trying to establish a population. It doesn't work.
Well, and that was something
it's illegal in Texas.
We talked about. I guess I don't know if it was pre-podcast or whatever, but I woke up early this morning and started watching the Colonel and the Fox, which was the mossyoak documentary on. Basically, it's Tom Kelly and Fox Rudd, I think is his name. You might want to check me on that, Tavares, but. Anyway, those two dudes, just their legacy in turkey hunting, and then it talked about the formation of NWTF, the National Wild Turkey Federation, and their efforts to repopulate Alabama and Mississippi, basically the South. But that was one of the big things that they talked about was at first they said, we're going to breed wild turkeys with farm-raised birds and then release them, and it was a complete failure. So anyway, going back to what we were talking about, what in East Texas right now, the success that you guys are having, because I'm assuming every county that's in green here is pretty much, and even the Rio stuff, but to the west. But I'm assuming anything that y'all are releasing in these East Texas counties that are highlighted in green are like, what kind of are they Easterns? Or they, you said the Rios they hung on for a couple of decades.
Yeah.
What are y'all doing right now?
So we have some focal landscapes for our restoration efforts. And I'll go back just a little bit. So you look at some of the old historic distribution maps, and they'll show Texas all the way over to Oklahoma, southeastern Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana. They show the whole state as Rio Grandes. And then it's just the political boundary between those states that says, well, that's Easterns.
Right.
So it's not that simple. It's not Texas was Rio, and they said, I'm not going to be anything but a Texan.
Right.
Right. So there's some spillover over time where those Easterns would have come back and forth. No doubt there would have been some. I mean, they're all the same species. They're all the North American wild turkey. So they can all breed and reproduce. So there would have been some interchange with Easterns and Rios somewhere in that landscape. So maybe a hybrid bird was what historically would have occurred in East Texas.
Yeah.
But you look, like you said, just across the border. You go down to Toledo Bend, and you go right south of the dam, and we've got birds all over Sabine County, northern Newton, and Jasper County. No doubt those birds are just connected, the same lineage of those western Louisiana birds. We're actually doing some DNA work with LSU on that right now. So we know that Easterns spill over, but where over there to the west did those Rios move in, and where did they stop and interchange? Some later maps showed the Trinity River kind of being that demarcation zone. But again, you got to imagine that there was this constant genetic exchange between Rios and Easterns, and probably a definite hybridization zone. We did some genetic work in Grayson, Fannin, and Lamar County. We did it for all of these Texas, but you could actually see that gradual shift from Grayson being mostly Rios, but some Eastern and hybrids, into Fannin County and Lamar County. We saw that hybridization. So we know it's occurring naturally.
Yeah.
There's really no problem with that.
We need to come up with our own turkey species. like Florida has the Osceolas, only place in the world that an Osceola turkey lives, okay? We need to come up with our own East Texas, like from the border of Texas and Louisiana to like 45 or whatever. Yeah. That'd be kind of cool for us to, in our repopulation efforts, have our own turkey that people around the world would come in and try to shoot.
Yeah. Just the Eastern Rio, huh?
Hey, yeah. I have a quick question, if that's cool. Jason, like you might have already explained it for hunters' terms. I'm not a hunter at all. Why did the turkey experience fail? Like why you said that, like, we released all these turkeys and everything, and then it was a massive failure. Why? Like, why was it a massive failure?
Yeah. Well,
in your opinion.
Well, I can give you a laundry list of things that may not have worked out. So, you go back to the 1930s and 40s when the Game Fish Nourishment Commission were putting Rios in East Texas. They hung on for a while, but they didn't persist. Now, they're not a migratory species, so they're going to have a home range of about 20 miles, you could say that, or a population distribution.
Is that about what the home range is? Is a turkey about 20?
Home range would be a couple of 1,000 acres for an individual bird. But that said, this hen can go from her winter range 20 miles for a nest if she needed to. We've seen turkeys go 50 miles, but that's the exception. It's not the rule. But to have a population, you need a landscape of birds. You were talking earlier about the Southeast is just loaded with birds. It is a huge ocean of birds, right? So there's this opportunity for genetic exchange all over the landscape. You go over to East Texas, and you get this little spillover from Louisiana, this little spillover from Arkansas and southeast Oklahoma, right? And then you're going into this no man's land. So you're going out into the desert of unoccupied habitat. So you're trying to see this expansion occur, but there's no birds to meet up with in a lot of cases. So one of the things I think is an issue in East Texas is, like when our block stocking era, from the late 1970s till the early 2000s, we had a formula. We're going to go release 5 to 10 groups of birds, 15 to 20 birds per site in a county. We regulate at the county scale, so we're going to restock at the county scale. You go to Anderson County, you got the Neches River on one side, the Trinity River on the other side. There's probably not a lot of exchange between those two watersheds. Now, if you were to stock that watershed, where there's this opportunity up and down that landscape for exchange, right? So these birds can move. That might be a better model than just trying to force it into this county. Many of these counties, like we talked about, Red River, Lamar, Fannin, you go north of 82, it's a different habitat than south of 82. You follow the Red River, you got a connected population. You don't have a connected population between the Red River and the Sulphur River.
Well, that's like different habitat for human beings in that area.
Dang straight, dude. You go north of 82, bro. That's like Keystone Light area.
It's different breeds, baby.
Yeah, Keystone Light and the hard teas.
Yeah,
that's a different area altogether.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you telling me.
And that's not the only thing, but that's one of the things that I think we have to look at is how's the landscape and populations across those landscapes, and that the lack of knowledge of what that historic subspecies would have been.
Right.
Was it a Rio? Was it an Eastern? Was it a hybrid of the two? And are we putting the right birds in there?
You know, that's crazy because, yes, like when you said 1880s to 1920s. Let's just give that. Let's just say that is the fall of turkeys in East Texas, okay, or the southern United States in general, whatever. What are you going to call it? That's the fall, but we're talking specifically about East Texas today. Let's say that 40-year period is like the fall of the wild turkey in East Texas. You know, that's a long time ago. Don't get me wrong, but it's really not. I mean, you can go out to like say San Jacinto Battlefield down in South Texas with a metal detector and find bullets or buttons off of uniforms. You know, it's crazy that we haven't found an old turkey fan.
Yeah.
You know, that great grandpa had or something, and you could run genetic testing off of that to see what it actually was. It's insane to me because, like I said, we have been all over the southern United States hunting. And heck, we were in Utah, or not Utah, but South Dakota, Wyoming last year turkey hunting. It looks a lot the same, you know, as far as the thickness of the forest or the vegetation, you know, all that kind of stuff. And I feel like there's plenty for them to eat around here. Like, you know, I'm just trying to figure out, like, why is this? Because it is a very defined area. Like, why won't it work?
Yeah.
Right.
And some of the things that, like, I've thought about, you know, we listened to a podcast, I don't know, a year or so ago, and it was strictly about predator control for turkey hunting. You got to trap. You got to get the bobcats. You got to get the coons mainly, you know, like all these nest raiders and stuff. And, you know, there's really not any of that in East Texas anymore. But at the same time, when we go down to Florida and turkey hunt, they got the fire ants, they got coons, they got everything, and their turkey populations are doing great. So I don't hang a lot of weight on maybe the predators. Maybe you can correct me.
Yeah, I mean, so when you're in restoration mode, every nest is critical. So I have no problem. I want to, first of all, provide the best habitat I can to try it for that heart of where I'm doing the restoration. I want it to be burned on a regular frequency. I want a lot of herbaceous cover in the understory. I want a lot of permanent openings to service brood habitat.
You want controlled burns happening.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. That's a big deal.
I'm not opposed to predator control, but if you have closed canopy forest, so nothing but pine needles in the understory, and you think you're going to shoot your way out of that problem by removing coyotes and bobcats and raccoons, you're not, because you can't do it on a scale that's meaningful. We're talking about landscapes of oceans of turkey populations, and we're just have these little restoration areas in East Texas, right? So you can do whatever you want to, but if it's not happening at a scale that's meaningful,
is that a budget problem?
No, it's a culture issue.
Well, culture. Okay, let's go ahead. But I'm going to write down culture issue because that's something that was my next.
Yeah, we were talking about burns and all that. So how often would you like to see that?
Every 2 to 3 years in East Texas.
Okay.
And that's going to change the further. It's based on rainfall and how dynamic that system is and how quickly it changes. You plant a pine forest today, in 20 years you're already 15 years, you're already harvesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's rapid growth.
Y'all released 12, 15. I don't know how many y'all released, but I've seen either 12 or 15
back in the day.
Yeah, this was several
County.
years ago in Anderson County.
Anderson County, we were doing super stockings.
Yep.
Of 80 plus birds.
Oh,
per
wow.
side.
Okay. Well, see, the biggest group I saw was about 12, 15, and that was
That's
right next
common.
to his
Yep.
and all that. I
you
will
on the
say
Nature's
this.
River?
Nature's River.
Yep.
Yeah, right across. It's right west of the nature. Like we've so our
between 79 and Highway 84, or between 84 and 294.
This is right
Yeah,
north
off-
of
right off of
294.
294.
Right off,
Yep.
right north of 294.
Yeah.
Right past the river. Okay.
Yeah, it's
They
called.
probably had bands on their legs.
Okay.
They had.
I
Well, I
don't
didn't
know.
even look at that because.
So our lease is right now about 4,000 acres. It was about 4,500. But there's
The
four,
lease next to
there's
us is
four
6,000.
leases. There's 4 leases that all are contiguous. That one company owns all this land. So it's probably, I think at one time we figured it up and it was close to 20,000 acres right there. Okay,
Maybe more.
I bet you it's more than that.
I
'cause
work
you
with
got,
Don Dietz, who used
Yes,
to be
exactly.
with Temple
Yep.
Inland and
Yep.
these other organizations, but he stayed in that landscape, super familiar with it, has been a big part of the restoration in those areas, pulling those folks together.
Yeah.
Huge cooperative landscape of people doing good stuff, and we're actually putting funds into getting habitat done on those landscapes.
How many times have they said that they burned though? Because I've been out there 25 years.
Yeah. Well, you got to remember it's a corporate.
yeah, they're
it's also-
they're in the business of harvesting timber.
Yeah.
They're not in the business
No,
of raising
not at all.
turkeys.
And these companies have changed over time.
Yep.
So you go back to the old Temple Inland days, they were big fans of fire. Fire was
Yes.
on the landscape. But as those companies change, those board of directors change, fire is scary to people. And in the wrong hands, it should be scary to people. But in the right hands, under the right conditions, we can do phenomenal management with prescribed fire. And that's one thing that we've lost across the entire Southeast, but in big part in East Texas.
Yeah,
Yep.
I've been on that lease for 10 years, just give or take, and I've only remembered them burning
That's
at
the only
one time.
That's the
And that
only
was
time
right
I've
when
seen-
I first
now,
got on it.
we have lightning strikes and then it burns at that point in time. A little bit of it and all that, and you could see a more healthy. I mean, I've been out there 25 years, and
Well,
I've
brag
seen,
about it, man.
Well, I
Dang.
mean, I'm just saying, I've seen the terrain and all that, and how it was when we first got out there, and all that, and how it is now. To where, I mean, a turkey wouldn't have a chance against a predator, going through the stuff that we're going through. I mean, you got to have thick Carhartt stuff just to get through stuff.
If you don't want to go through it, a turkey doesn't want to go through
Exactly.
Okay. All right. That's good to know. That's very good to know.
it.
Because-
Yopon, a clear cut that's 3 or 4 years old.
Yep.
Once it gets to that point, up to almost 15 to that first inning, it's not even habitat for turkeys.
When Jason's explaining now why it failed,
Yeah.
like more detailed to me, like the predators
Yeah, I mean,
and the habitat.
it's
Yeah.
Our lease, just to it changed ownership 4 or 5 years ago, something like that.
Yeah.
And at that point when it changed leadership, they went in and cut. I mean, it was definitely
Well, first thing they did was go to every one of our gates and put up they are a member of the NWTF.
Yeah.
Did I say that right?
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, there ain't no turkey out here. I mean, and I will say this, when they released the turkeys, the first group of turkeys me and my brother saw, we were at I-9 Creek going around. And I was like, there's turkeys right there. He goes, what? And we got, took pictures of it. I got out of the truck, walked over, and just, did with my voice, what I thought of hen sounded like.
Let's
and
hear
touched
it.
one of them.
Okay. Is that pretty good, Jason?
That's good, man.
Don't lie to
hey,
him.
The worst worst call I ever heard came from a hen turkey. So
Hey, that's the truth.
I think you can get away with a lot.
Yeah.
more
That's
than
the
people
truth.
say.
But I literally reached up there and touched it. And then we were telling,
You touched the bird?
I touched the bird. Touched the bird. Literally touched the bird.
He's getting arrested now,
no.
isn't he?
Well,
Police
Federal
arrest
crime.
him.
didn't know.
Lost his
But
hunting
anyway,
license for life.
This is 20-some years ago, y'all. No. But then I was
Statute of
telling our
limitations.
parents and all that stuff. Yeah. So I was telling my dad and my uncles and all that, because they were still on the leash, hunting and all. They didn't believe us. Well, the creek rose. We had to find a new way to get back to the, the camp. We were stopped, my dad's truck, and I was like, well, there's those turkeys right there. And he goes, what are you talking about? Turkey flew up and landed on his side mirror.
Come on,
It just
now.
sat there.
Hilarious.
Yeah.
That's wild.
So we thought forever they were somebody else's turkeys.
Yeah, it might have been. That's
I know,
that's
that's-
awful.
I'm
That's
just
awful
saying,
domestic acting.
Well, out at where we saw them at, there
Yeah.
wasn't no. There
Now,
wasn't no
2007,
houses anywhere.
2008, we did research on the super stocking. Sounds like it's about that time frame.
It was.
Birds came from
It was.
South Carolina and Tennessee, and we released 80 birds right on the Natchez River between Highway 84 and 294.
Yeah, that'd have been right by the lease.
Since then, we stocked just south of 294 on a part of that cooperative landscape.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that's closer to ours right there.
That would have been probably around 15 or 16. I don't want to say the name of the leases, but just south of 294 and just west or just east of the Natchez River.
Yeah, we've seen those turkeys. This is what I was going to get at a minute ago. We were seeing those turkeys periodically. I'd have them on game camera. I've got video footage of one of those turkeys. I video all the hunts and do all this, and I've got video of a turkey walking down one of my food plots. But when the ownership changed 4 or 5 years ago, I believe, and I may be just speaking out of my ass here, but I believe it was more of a investment group that bought it rather than an actual timber company. Okay, to just add to their portfolio. When they bought that, they went in and clear cut so much acreage, like stuff that I was in the timber business for a long time. And it's stuff that was not ready. It was not mature by any means. But they were just looking for, I guess, a return on their investment pretty quick. And they went in and they clear cut probably 40% of that entire lease. Okay? Now, you were saying, like, first off, after 3 or 4 years, it's so thick that you can't do nothing. And I don't want to walk through it, so your turkey ain't going to walk through it. And then before that, it was so just like there was no vegetation whatsoever, because what they do is they replant and then they spray. So they're spraying anything that's going to compete with those pine seedlings. So there's no vegetation for them to eat. So we haven't seen turkeys in 4 or 5 years.
Yep.
Now there are a lot of areas in that lease that we don't hunt that are they did do well on streamside management zones where they don't cut say 50 foot on each side of a creek or something. So maybe those turkeys congregated those areas. Ione Creek, as Jason was saying, that is a huge creek that has a very large streamside management zone around it. They may have all gone to that, but we don't really hunt that. And so we just haven't seen them. My daughter, 7 or 8 years ago, or what you were saying, she's sitting in a pop-up blind and trying to deer hunt, and there's a freaking couple of turkeys like right up next to the blind giving it hell.
Nuts.
Scaring her to death basically because she ain't never heard no wild turkey before. But yeah, I mean, I guess that's part of a culture thing of just going in and clear cutting everything. Talk to me a little bit. We have a couple game wardens that we get on this show twice a year. And one of the things we do with them is like the stupid criminal thing. How many rednecks do you think have to do with hurting the repopulation of turkeys in East Texas?
Yeah, it plays a role. We've put GPS units on birds, and we've seen them, found a GPS unit thrown into a culvert.
Yeah.
So we know that bird was poached. And we only focus on counties that are closed for our restoration efforts because we want to protect those birds, right? So I know it occurs. I think it's probably no more than what's getting hit by cars, or certainly not the numbers that are getting eaten by bobcats and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it is a factor. I got to be careful with the redneck thing because,
No, hey, we're all
I
rednecks,
resemble that
man.
remark. But,
No.
I think back, and again, statute of limitations, they were stocking the county that I grew up in 1992, and my cousin comes up with a turkey. Might not ever see another one.
Yeah.
So I've been very close to that kind of situation.
Well, I just didn't know, what do you think habitat is the number one thing that you're fighting against in the repopulation?
Yeah.
What is the number one thing?
Yeah, I mean, it's that question from the very beginning. What's the right subspecies for this landscape, and where does that interchange occur? And we're working on that. We can talk about that if you want to.
Yeah.
But habitat, absolutely. Turkeys can make do in places choked with yaupon, large clear cuts. They can make do as long as they got a couple of pieces here and there, but they need to be connected to a larger population. So if I go to northern Newton County, I can hunt some stuff that I think is junk, habitat-wise, but there's still birds there because they're tied to that large landscape of birds in Louisiana, Sabine, and Jasper County.
So is that for breeding? Is that why is it important for them to be tied to a large landscape of birds?
So, I mean, it's just just genetics, and if something goes wrong at point A, point B is right there, and it can repopulate that landscape. If I'm doing a restoration in Anderson County on the Neches River and there's no other birds around,
Right.
and they have a couple of hard years, who's going to refill that area? So
Gotcha.
when you think about, just population in general, you need something to fill that void and make up. So the larger your landscape, the more sustainable of occupied habitat, the more
Makes
sustainable
perfect.
you are.
And I never really thought about that. I was just like, dude, just pump more turkeys in that area. But
And we're trying that. We're doing that. We're trying to pump turkeys into landscapes, but we're trying to identify those landscapes where we have the best chance for success based off just whatever's going on in that landscape. The Neches River, the Trinity River right now, and the Sulphur River. And we'd love to stock everything, but whenever you pattern your shotgun, you don't want to see dots all over the landscape when
Right.
you're doing restoration, right? You don't want that
Right.
shotgun approach. You want a precise approach, and you want it to be linear. So what we're trying to do is basically a daisy chain approach. I stocked here. I go 10 miles away. I stock here. I go 10 miles away. I stock here. Along that long, linear large riparian landscapes, we have that opportunity for genetic exchange over time. So that's the goal, is artificially create that. If this population does bad, there's another one right down the creek to fill that void.
Gotcha.
What is the population of a turkey? Like, I'm unaware, because you're a biologist too, right, Jason? Like, so what is the population like for reproducing in turkeys? Like, what's the average?
Man, you look back in the day at some of the stuff in Missouri where they just started out, and they were letting 7 birds go, 5 birds go, and being successful.
Really? So it's
Yeah. But you also look at the timeline. That's going in the 60s and the 70s. There were other things going on in the landscape. There were fewer people in the landscape. There weren't turkeys. They were kind of a novelty. No one knew how to hunt a turkey. There was a lot of predator control, and fire was a common management on the landscape. You had a lot of these farms, these fallow fields, things like that on the landscape. You didn't have everything planted to Bermuda grass. You didn't have clean farming. There's just fire was a common use.
Right.
So it was a different era. We didn't really start until the late 70s. So we're 20 years, 30 years behind a lot of these other states in our restoration efforts as far as putting wild trapped eastern turkeys. We were still letting pen-raised birds go in the late 1970s.
Gotcha.
Other states had walked away from that 20 years before. But,
But the turkey's producing like science. You know what I'm saying? Like eggs or whatever. Like, what is the average? I mean, not trying to put you on the spot.
No,
but
I'm trying to get the exact question. If you're talking about population, or if you're talking about the individual hens.
Yeah,
How
the
much
hens.
how many eggs does a hen lay?
Yeah, it's 11 or 12 on average.
Okay.
And how many of those are survivable?
Yeah, so if you look in a phenomenal year for a wild turkey, if only 70% of their nest are lost, you're having a good year.
Oh wow.
If only 70% of the poults that hatched die, you're having a good year.
Wow. So it's
you
not.
got to think about it's very low odds.
Yeah.
So a hen, a turkey hen, she's going to roost in a tree her entire adult life, basically from the time she's a poult, 2 weeks old, until she starts initiating incubation on that nest. She sleeps in a tree every night.
2 weeks.
At 2 weeks old, she can fly.
They can fly.
Wow.
I didn't know.
I didn't know that either.
So this is just the general lifespan of a turkey, right? So we'll just start with a hen. She got bred.
Yeah.
She got bred. She's going to go and she's going to lay 1 egg a day on the ground, right? She's not going to, on average, 1 egg a day. There might be some biologists listening.
No, I
poke
got
holes
you.
in me.
Don't worry about that, man.
we'll
they poke
shut
holes
it
in
down
us.
real
Yeah.
But so we'll just say 1 egg a day. She's going to lay 12 eggs on average. So she goes back to that nest site every day. She's roosting a tree every night. Then she's done. She's going to go and sit on those eggs all at the same time. So her goal is for every one of those eggs to hatch out at the exact same time, or pretty close to it, within a 24-hour period. And then these birds are what we call precocial. So they're not like your dove. They're going to sit in the nest for 10 days before they start growing their feathers. They stay in the egg for 28 days, right? So I might have skipped over that. Mm-hmm. So 12 eggs. She's got to incubate those eggs for 28 days. The rest of her life, she's in a tree at night.
So,
she's
but she's on the ground. She stays on the ground at night when she's incubating.
She's incubating the whole time. She's not leaving. She might leave that nest for an hour a day, right? So she's going to go out, defecate, get a little bite to eat, something to drink. She's back on the nest. Huge energy suck for her. And so you got this big stinky bird on the ground at night, and everything wants to eat you and your eggs.
Yeah, that makes sense, man.
So you imagine that first 12 eggs, 28 days, that first egg is on the ground for 40 days. It's a long time for an egg to survive on the ground.
That's a month and a half almost, dude.
Everything out there is trying to make a living off some kind of meat product. Eggs or turkey, they're all on the menu.
Wow.
So, and then once they hatch, again, 70% of those nests are going to fail. It's just a tough life. And most of the hens that die during the nesting period. That's when most mortality occurs because she's on the ground at night. Once they hatch, 24 hours later, they're out running across the landscape. 3-inch tall little bird, can't fly, can barely walk. So imagine you have a Bermuda grass field that hadn't been cut for hay yet, hopefully, because they cut a lot of hay and mow right over turkeys all the time. We lose 12% of our nest to mowing.
You're kidding.
During the nesting
Dude,
season.
turkeys, I don't know how they're going to make it any. I want them to, but my goodness.
So that's the entire range of the wild turkey, though. They all have to deal with these issues. So the handful that are successful, the poults hatch, they get out of the nest, can't fly for 2 weeks. Those first couple of days, if it's not almost bare ground, for the most part bare ground, imagine you're walking through a canopy of trees, right? You got that overhead, but you can walk easy on the ground. They want that, but with weeds and grasses. So if they can't get their feet on the ground, Bermuda grass field, fertilized, getting ready to be cut, thick, they're not going to be able to move through that. So that's basically just this big block. Imagine a wall that they cannot go through.
Does their mama bring them food? So they're on their own.
She is leading them across the landscape, teaching them how to be a turkey. But it's on them to go and pick the little grasshopper, pick the beetle, pick the spider, because that's their food is insects. So another thing we're having problems with is insects are declining.
Yeah.
And then, again, access to those insects. And then everything wants to eat you. You can't fly for 2 weeks. You're 3 inches tall that first day, right?
Yeah.
And everything wants to eat you. I show you a video on my phone, a guy with an iPhone walking up to a hen, videoing her poults. He could walk with her and stomp on one if he wanted to.
Wow.
50-year-old man. So if he can do that, what could your dog, your cat, the hawk, the bobcat, coyote, whatever. If you eat meat, that's easy pickings.
Yeah.
Absolute snakes. You're going to take advantage of that. So they had to have ideal brood habitat, which means a lot of bare ground, lots of weeds, and ease of movement through that landscape. Rainfall plays a role. I mean, there's so many things that are playing a role in this.
Have you guys ever? I'm sure you have, because y'all are a lot smarter than me. But automatically I'm thinking of like wood duck boxes. Okay, that was a big deal, and I guess it still is. Everybody throwing up wood duck boxes to help wood duck populations and stuff. Have y'all tried a turkey box or a turkey?
A turkey doesn't know where she's going to nest the day before she starts nesting.
Gotcha.
So these turkeys are hanging out with their sisters and cousins on the landscape. They get bred. They're going to go around, and then imagine you're walking through the woods and nature calls. Were you planning on sitting on that log or leaning up against that tree?
Yeah.
Probably not. You were like, oh.
Yeah.
It's time.
Yeah.
That's what I envisioned that hen doing. It's time. What looks like suitable nesting cover around me?
Gotcha.
And then she's going to go over there and lay that first egg, and then she's committed to it.
Yeah. If nature calls, I'm finding the closest river. You know what I'm saying?
We all have our own approach.
Yeah. Paul, he's something else. I'll tell you.
It's refreshing.
So when a hen gets bred, she gets bred one time, then she'll lay 10, 12 eggs or whatever.
Yeah. So one interesting doesn't matter fact is most of it. There's almost always multiple paternity. If you took the eggshells, there's 2 different daddies in that nest. So she's not getting bred one time. She'll get bred multiple times, but then she can hold that semen in her until the ideal moment for
But once she starts
30
laying,
days.
she's laying eggs and she's not doing anything else.
She wants to be away from every other turkey. She doesn't want another hen to see her. We know that hens will dump eggs in another hen's nest. Man, it's a good strategy, right?
Why do they do that?
They don't want to sit on that nest at night.
They
gotcha.
let her drop offs at the fire station, man.
Gotcha. So they'll dump their eggs and make it, or
if possible.
Yeah.
There are hens that will do that.
Gotcha.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Man, that's wild.
So we talk about multiple paternity in nests. Sometimes there's multiple maternity in the nest.
Yeah.
Wow.
Have you guys ever went and this may be how you repopulate. I don't know. Do y'all ever take eggs and incubate them yourselves?
So that's what I talked about earlier. So we had our own breeding program in Tyler for 40 years. It does not work. So you can take a wild turkey hen is communicating with the poults while they're still in the egg. We can't replicate that.
Gotcha.
Whenever they hatch, she's taking them across. So if you put a wild turkey egg on an incubator, you've already
Domesticated
gone down the wrong path. It's already over for that bird. It's not going to be successful. That's not to say that if you let a 6-month-old pen-raised turkey out there in the landscape, it's a big enough bird. It's going to live for a while, right? But it doesn't know what a bobcat is. It didn't have mom sitting there giving her that specific call of stop and drop.
Yeah.
You know, so there's this level of communication that these birds have with each other, beginning while they're still in the egg, that you can't replicate.
That's insane, man. Like,
go. I'm sorry.
it just like
It's
I
like a
agree
baby
with
knows
you.
the mama's voice.
I was agreeing with you, Paul. Like, the fact that 70% of the eggs fell, and then 70% of
70% of the nest fell,
and then
in a good year.
Yeah,
that's
and then,
a good year.
And then the
70%
70% of the poults die.
In a good year.
That's just insane.
Jason, is part of your job like figuring out? I'm sorry for asking this again. I'm very ignorant with this stuff, and we're just hanging out having a conversation. Is part of your job figuring out how to make this grow in East Texas? I mean, is that one of your goals in your job? Is to see it populate in East Texas?
Absolutely. I mean, that's it's been the goal for people in my position for the last 50 years.
So if you don't mind me,
it's part of my job.
If you don't mind me asking, this may be a dumb question, but I'm dead serious. Like, has the conversation of cloning ever came up? Like you can recall? No. Okay, good. I was just curious.
No,
I didn't know how crazy it would get.
No, I mean, it's the idea of genetic diversity and where we bring these birds from and things like that. So there's a lot of these ideal things. I had a commissioner one time, we were talking about restoration in East Texas. He said, well, why don't you just go to Arkansas and Oklahoma and get birds from them? Like, well, Arkansas and Oklahoma aren't giving birds out. You go where the opportunity. So there's a lot of this ideal, like this is how it should work. You should be stocking in December and January. Well, if that state that's kind enough to send us birds only traps in February and March, well, that's when we take the birds. So you have these models or these ideal situations, but we live in reality, and I have to work within the bounds that are provided for me. So
are other states stingy with their birds?
Man, since the southeastern turkey decline, the Midwest turkey decline, heck yeah. So you look at a lot of these states have seen declining populations. They've reduced bag limits, shortened seasons, or push seasons later to try to capture that nest initiation period. Better catch it. No, they're not going to send me birds after they just took a bird away from their constituency. So you look at Oklahoma. If you want to go hunt in Kansas, I got my point this year, so I can go hunt next year, right? So you got to do a draw. Nebraska's going that way. South Carolina, Louisiana. A lot of these states have changed regulations in recent years to try to address these declines. You're going to turn around and send birds to Texas?
Yeah.
After you just told your constituents.
Well, they don't get no oil. How's that sound? You don't want to send no turkeys, you don't get no oil.
Or Tex-Mex.
Yeah.
Shoot.
I don't know.
Well, we've talked to several high fence deer hunters or, deer ranches, things like that. They hate turkeys. Hate them. Absolutely hate them.
And I don't know why.
But here's the thing.
I can tell you why.
You start talking to them, it's like, hey, well, we like to go turkey hunting, we won't do this. Oh, yeah. And then when it gets down to brass tacks, no, we're not doing it.
Yeah.
We're not doing it.
Why do they hate them? Why does high fence deer operations hate turkeys?
So, and I don't know if it's just high fence, but people that focus on big bucks, so you think about South Texas and landscapes like that, deer hunting pays the bills.
Right.
Dove hunting pays the bills. It's not turkey hunting in Texas. And there's a lot of interest. I see a lot more heads on your wall from deer than the turkey feeder you brought in for me. I appreciate that. But it's big business. It's an industry. And whenever you have a feeder on the landscape or a protein feeder and you're investing that money into feeding your deer and trying to grow big deer, and a flock of 50 turkeys comes up and runs that Boone and Crockett buck you were targeting off, that's just another moment in time. So it's considered a financial loss. So turkeys will readily eat your protein, right? They will more than happily go to your feeder and run off. So a group of 50, 100 turkeys comes running in. The deer's not going to stay there.
Yeah.
That looks like a mob coming in to attack
So it could be a menace.
Yeah, they're just considered a nuisance.
Well,
It's not how I would define a nuisance.
Those people need to go turkey hunting.
Absolutely.
Because
and a lot of those people are shooting turkeys. We have a fall season in a lot of those counties, and they're shooting a turkey under a feeder with a rifle, and calling it turkey hunting. That's not turkey
No,
hunting.
that's not turkey.
No,
That's
if you're not
opportunistic
calling,
shooting.
if you're not calling them
Yeah.
and they're calling back, I don't think that's turkey hunting.
Which I also noticed in some when I was doing this research, pulling up these counties that have seasons and stuff. A lot of them, if not, I don't know how many, but every one that I saw, like in East Texas, like you can't hunt them under a feeder.
No.
Or you're not supposed to.
No.
You know, and I mean, dude, if anybody can get in the woods right before daylight, hear them just gobbling off the roost, and then hear them answering your call, flying down out of the roost, and like you have that exchange with that turkey, and then you see him, like that's the most exciting thing in the world to me.
100%.
Like it is the most, and I mean, I'm just going to get a little crazy here. It's almost like it's a spiritual thing because, you know, this turkey, like the turkey in elementary school, we're doing turkey fans out of cardboard or out of construction paper, you know, because it's Thanksgiving or something. Like everybody's familiar with the turkey. It's not this mythical creature that nobody knows. It's something that everybody's extremely familiar with. But if you go on a turkey hunt and you experience like that, it is the most exciting thing in the world to me.
Yeah,
There's no sense of danger. It's not like you're hunting a Cape buffalo or anything. But I don't know what it is. It is the most exciting thing I've ever done in my life.
You're communicating with that bird, and it's communicating back with you.
Yeah.
If I'm deer hunting, I'm in a chain on up in a tree. I don't know if that deer's 100 yards away. If I'm turkey hunting and I call and he strikes, oh man, I know he's there, and I know he knows I'm here, and he just talked to me.
It's the
And if
most.
he comes closer, man, it's on now. So it's just a different approach. Texas is historically a fall hunting state, though.
Really?
If you look at when all turkeys were gone, we always had a population of Rio Grandes. We've always been a destination state. Way back in the day, the 50s, we were really a destination state because none of those other states had birds.
Right.
You look at Oklahoma, you look at Kansas, the Rios they have are Texas Rios. So if there are Rios anywhere in the country, it's genetically tied to Texas because we never didn't have a population. They got hit hard too, just not as hard as East Texas. There's a lot more people in the East, but they got hit hard. But forever, Texas has been a fall hunting culture, and that's your Thanksgiving bird, that's your Christmas bird.
Huh.
And,
I just
and
didn't.
So that
I never
change
thought
over
about that.
time has occurred. So you look at a lot of the regulations. You're still allowed to. You can shoot them overfeed with a rifle in all those counties with a 4-bird bag limit for the most part. And it's just not. It's changing.
Yeah.
It's rapidly changing. Our harvest, everything, our numbers are going spring, but it's that slow change for a lot of those folks who are now more into deer hunting. They still remember the old days of we shoot them in the fall.
Do in the fall, which I've never hunted a turkey in the fall, never really even considered it. But do they answer a call in the fall? Like I didn't.
Yeah.
I wouldn't.
There are fall turkey hunters, and it's a pretty cool process. I mean, you go in, you can have a turkey dog go in there and bust up that flock. They go every which direction. You go hide, put a tarp over your dog or whatever, get him camouflage, and you're doing little assembly calls to those birds, and you're bringing them back in.
But it's not
that
like
is turkey hunting.
Yeah, it's not like the spring hunting though, where you're imitating a hen to get them to mate and all that kind of stuff. Gotcha.
No, it's just these little kiki calls that you're trying to get those birds. Hey, I'm over here. Everything's good. You come back to where you flush from.
That's kind of fun. That kind of sounds fun.
Oh yeah,
we were out in Llano on a day lease, and this guy, he had a video of that morning. We got there that afternoon, and there was hundreds of turkey out in this field, and I'm not exaggerating. It was hundreds of turkeys out here, and one would gobble, and then it was like
chain reaction.
100 of them, whatever, just ball. It was just amazing.
That's what's cool as well is like the reaction that the turkeys have, like to a crow call or owl call, like that. What do they call that? I can't remember.
Shot
call. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's
Absolutely.
just awesome. I'm telling you, Paul, turkey hunting is the most fun.
Oh yeah,
thing there is.
Because I've just dove hunted and I loved it, but just asking questions on this podcast and people and stuff, asked them like what's their favorite hunting, and everybody says turkey hunting number one. It's like, go do it. It's the best thing in the world. Where are some of your favorite places to hunt?
Man, anywhere I get access is
like what's your favorite?
Golly.
You don't want to give a
You
secret.
can change your
Don't
top-
want to
it's
give a
not
secret,
even
Your
that.
top 3, 5.
I love traveling the West. So I'll be in Wyoming this year. I've killed a bird in Oregon. I've hunted them in Kansas. I've hunted them in New Mexico. I've hunted them in Colorado. So I love Western hunting.
Yeah.
And I think it's more of a population density of people than anything else. I feel it's more, I don't know, tame in the eastern half of the country, and that doesn't appeal to me as much.
Yeah.
But
I wanted to ask about.
there's not a single county. If I could pick a county, I mean, there's some phenomenal counties in Texas that I would love to turkey hunt in, just because of just sheer densities of birds. The coastal sand sheet down in South Texas, Brooks, Clayburgh, Willacy, Kennedy County, phenomenal country.
Cool.
You know, but
I love that, man.
I'm sending. I sent Tavares a picture. I want to show you. This was me and Jason while we were in.
nice. Colorado?
No, that was in Wyoming.
South
This is
Dakota.
actually South
That's
Dakota.
South
So
Dakota.
we hunted last year with 7J Outfitters.
Yeah, beautiful meadows.
And they were actually in Wyoming, and we drew a South Dakota tag while we were there. And Jason killed his South Dakota bird and his Wyoming bird. Was it the
Within
same
12
day?
hours, yeah.
Yeah, same
within
day.
12 hours of each other.
So this was my bird right after he shot his, and then the next morning I shot my Wyoming bird, and man, it was just, I'm telling you, it was gorgeous. Let me send this picture.
Now, when we went that morning, there was no grass, no nothing showing.
It was all snow. That we flew into Rapid City, and there was nothing. And then that night, like winter storm blew in, and it snowed like crazy all night. And so we got to hunt turkeys in the freaking snow, which I thought was incredible. And then the next morning, this is my Wyoming bird, this is my Wyoming bird. This was like, not that the other hunts weren't perfect, but this hunt was just gorgeous. It was just,
awesome.
it was perfect. Like everything. Show that picture. This is me. This is me sitting under the tree.
Me taking it with my iPhone.
Yeah, he took it with his iPhone. That's me sitting under the tree right when I'm about to shoot.
That's awesome, man.
And the sun's
Right off
coming
the
up.
roost.
Yeah, I mean, sun's coming up. It's gorgeous.
He was calling for, 30, 40 minutes?
Yeah, probably.
On the roost.
And finally just came right where he's supposed to come, and it was just boom, and it was done. This view here, you can supposedly see, with it 4 states?
4 states.
From on top of this hill.
Yeah.
They call this like the 4-point hill or something, where you could see 4 states.
Pretty cool.
But man, yeah, killing 2 birds, him in 12 hours, me in 24 hours, like, it was a home run.
What was Oregon like? I've been to Oregon. I love that state because of the scenery and the beauty and everything. Like, what was that like for you?
And the
ton of access, ton of birds gobbling. It was pretty cool. The bird I shot, we walked up this clear cut, and just a few straggler trees here and there. And I was actually with Kurt Dyroff. He's the new CEO of NWTF at the time. He and I were hunting together. And anyway, just walked all the way up this hill. Couldn't believe I didn't bust the bird. He finally comes around. I could see his beard. He'd been gobbling at us. Shot that bird. Went to pick him up. Didn't have any spurs. My heart was like, oh no. Picked him up. He was sure enough gobbler, just a freak. Didn't have spurs.
One of my Osceolas didn't have spurs.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like,
and the
slick
Osceolas
legs
are known for spurs too.
Yeah.
So
Oh yeah.
You want them to have
Yeah,
spurs.
the one. It was that same year. The one I shot had huge spurs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they were. I got a picture of them, so however big that is.
Yeah. So Texas Rios and Osceolas, man, they got the best spurs. That's the only thing. The downside of the Myriad is.
Yeah.
Love hunting them, but a little spindly beard. Little nub spurs. But they're cool birds.
They
Beautiful
are.
birds.
Yeah, that second one I shot, the Merriam, the dude was like, well, why did you take so long? I said, I was seeing which one's beard was longer, see which one had bigger spurs. And he goes, what, you was aging it or something? I was like, no, I was just trying to get a beard. I mean,
Hey, if you can be selective, be selective.
Oh,
Tavares, go back to the map real quick. Another thing that I had thought about when it comes to repopulation and stuff is a lot of these counties here that are not highlighted, showing they don't have a strong turkey population. A lot of those are populated heavily as well. So like, let's take Upshur County for example. Can you zoom in on Upshur County, Tavares? Let's see your geography right here.
Doing good.
He gets
Yep.
Doing
Upshur
good.
County, decent sized county. Okay, like it's pretty big county. But when you look at the the tracts of land within the county, you know, anybody that's got 80 acres in Upshur County has got a pretty good chunk of land. Does that, like, I'd read a while back and I'm completely talking out of my ass here because my memory's not that good, but I want to say like NWTF, for them to come in and do a full restoration, they wanted like 6,000 acres of contiguous acreage that everybody was on board with moving forward with the plan. And that may be y'all as well. Like, you know, it was I want to say it was 6,000. It was a lot of acreage. And for that to happen like in Upshur County would be dang near impossible. For you to get 6,000 acres of contiguous acreage where everybody signed off and said, we are on board with this program.
Yeah, we actually did it in southeast Camp County.
Okay.
So we got some spillover. We did have one restoration there. I can't remember the name of the creek that goes through there, but it's a pretty good watershed that goes all the way over to Louisiana and Caddo Lake. But anyway, yeah.
Is that Big Cypress?
It's Cypress Bayou, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah. But a couple of things. I'm gonna just fact check you a little.
Sure,
okay?
Sure.
NWTF, phenomenal partner.
Yeah.
I'm a member. If I had my Yeti cup, it says
yeah,
NWTF.
I'm a member too.
NWTF does not restock wild turkeys.
Okay.
State agencies restock wild turkeys.
Okay.
So we have the authority over those birds. Great partner. They help us when birds come to Texas. Our state chapter of NWTF helps pay for that.
Okay.
They provide turkey transport boxes. Phenomenal partner. Set up the Turkey 2000 program, but
they don't
NWTF
actually
does
do
not trap, does not handle birds. So again, no shade. just it's a common, and I think it's an opportunity to get that out there. It's a common thought that NWTF is doing all this restoration, and they are a phenomenal partner. Like I say, I pay my dues every year, but just
they don't actually do the restocking.
They aren't doing the restocking. They are on our side. They support us. They go to bat for us to make sure these programs continue. But it's just a little.
Mm-hmm. So how many acres do
10,000 acres is for eastern wild turkey restoration? We require a minimum of 10,000 acres. We want it to be more contiguous. That doesn't mean that there aren't little donut holes here and there.
No, and I get that. Like, that makes sense, but that gives, I mean, going back to my point, it's probably very hard. And there are some larger ranches in Upshur County, don't get me wrong, but I would say, like, and I'll just say Gregg County. Yeah. It's probably impossible to get 10,000 contiguous acres in Gregg County.
Yeah. Not mad at Gregg County. Gregg County is almost all Longview.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
That's what I'm saying.
And we talked about that daisy chain approach, trying to be strategic about where we put these birds in the landscape. So we've created these focal landscapes, and that's where we're going to try to flood birds into and avoid that shotgun approach. So say Upshur County, if it's part of that Cypress Bayou, so that northern Upshur County, have an opportunity. But it's not part of our focal landscape south of that, so we wouldn't go there.
So my land is screwed, is what you're telling me.
Hey, if we're successful other places,
I'm just playing. I know.
Might be a chance for them to
my chance of hearing a turkey fire off early in the morning at my house is
we had
slim
a season in
Upshur
County until not too. Maybe
we need to buy you a couple. Just
buy me a couple pin birds.
Just throw them out there.
That'll work. I can do that.
But Jason,
can feed them and stuff.
You mentioned, like, let's say that the turkey population does rise in East Texas, which we hope for. That'd be great. Would that affect our deer hunting because of the,
So I don't think that culture is there where they're going to be, like out west where they came in and ate my protein or they scared off my deer. I don't think there might be somebody like that that's just, I care about deer, nothing else. A turkey might come in and scare a deer off your feeder. It's not going to have an impact on your deer population.
Right.
So you might have individual instances where you're out there sitting in a blind and a deer runs off because a turkey flock ran in. I think most people in East Texas would welcome that.
I would.
Mm-hmm. I was just curious. Yeah.
I would. Hell, I'd a high fence in there. If you told me, hey, we're gonna stock your land with turkeys, I'd high fence that sumbitch to keep the deer out.
Yeah.
Because that's how much I care about it. I really, really do.
I remember as a kid, I was telling TJ this yesterday. I live in Russ County, so basically almost like probably in the middle of Russ County. And I remember, and it was during the springtime, but didn't know anything back then. You could hear them going to roost.
Yeah.
The gobbling and stuff like that at right at dark and all.
You know what year that was?
80s.
Okay, yeah.
In early 80s, mid 80s.
Yep.
Something like that.
How long have you been doing this job?
I started this job in 2007.
Okay.
Awesome.
So I came in as my title when I came in as upland game bird specialist. So it was turkey and quail for the most part, and then became the, just the turkey program leader, a few years ago, or maybe 10 years ago. But been doing the same work the entire time.
Break the kill the myth. Do fire ants have anything to do with turkeys?
Fire ants aren't great on the landscapes like feral hogs.
Yeah.
It's an exotic species out there that it's eating insects. There's no doubt that if you had a young poult struggling to get out of an egg, it might, a group of them probably go in there and kill it.
Yeah.
It's not a population impact.
Gotcha.
70% of your nests are failing every year. That's not fire ants doing that. It is, but no doubt they're a problem.
Right, but it's not
with feral hogs.
Yeah. Well, and that's what what do you think what's the number one predator that hurts the repopulation efforts?
Man, there's so many arguments about that.
Can I guess?
Go for it.
I'm going to say bobcat.
I mean, a bobcat absolutely is eating adult birds, but it goes back to your landscape, right? So if you have good habitat with a good open forest understory, and you can see the bobcat coming, you're probably not going to get whacked.
Hey, them turkeys haul ass.
Yeah, because they're fast.
They're fat. We had one in South Texas. Like the only time I ever seen them like really, really run, it was running across a pasture, and that sucker was booking it, dude.
But can it outrun a bobcat?
A bobcat's going to have a little short burst. So you got a feeder and you got yopon all around you, and you got that feeder right in the middle of it, and turkey goes to that, prime pickings for a bobcat. Bobcat could get them no problem. If you have a feeder in an open forest understory or a distance away from your forest edge, and a turkey visits that, it's going to see the bobcat coming. So it's about their main defense is their eyesight. So
which is incredible.
Incredible.
Yeah.
That's the main thing that keeps them alive is their eyesight. And if you have a thick forest understory, you're impeding their main defense. So yeah, bobcats are up there, coyotes, fox. I've been calling I was calling it cattle grasslands. And a bobcat jumps on the log I'm sitting on next to me. Multiple times I've called in bobcats. Hear about people calling in foxes and coyotes with a turkey call.
Y'all shoot them when you see them like that, or should we shoot them?
I don't.
Is it legal to shoot them before we say that?
Yeah, it's legal to shoot them. There's bobcats. There's CITES that you have to federal program because they're a spotted cat that you have to get a permit if you want to do something. If you want to mount it or if you want to carry it across state lines, you better have your CITES.
But you could just kill it like a hog and
you could treat it like prairie control in Texas. It's not the same everywhere. And Texas provides a lot of flexibility for trappers and predator hunters.
Yeah, just in Texas. We're talking about.
I'm sure other states do as well, but there are a lot more regulations.
We mostly just talk about Texas, when we.
Yeah, we don't care.
We
About
don't give a crap about the other states.
Yeah,
they
Ohio,
won't give us no birds.
Whatever.
So,
some of them do though.
I mean, I said
No, Paul. We typically do a section, a spot on the show where we have news, and it's usually the news with Paul.
Right.
And we just type in hunting in Google, like literally just type in hunting, and then click the news tab, and we read some of the ridiculous stories. So, like last night in preparation for this, I typed in turkey hunting and hit news. And there's really no good news. Like it's just turkey season's about to start, and this state's hyped up or that state's hyped up. But that's a good thing, though, that there's no big news, because typically the news that we focus on is some idiot killing 20 of them or doing something dumb or whatever.
Yeah.
What does predator control? Does it play that big of a part in the repopulation? And I know you're going to say yes, but like, how much of is it that big of a deal?
And I don't know. It's probably this give and take, over time, and depends on what you started with. If you started out with crap habitat, I probably wasn't going to stock that area to start with.
Right.
So you probably had good habitat, and that's like we talked about. If you got yopon next to a feeder, that's a good ambush spot for a bobcat to get a turkey. So our first priority is always good quality habitat. Lots of nesting habitat, lots of brood habitat. You talked about your lease. How many permanent openings do you see on that lease that isn't a pipeline that's planted to Bermuda grass or Bahia grass?
Right.
So providing a lot of brood habitat is a way to mitigate predation. If they're not narrowed down to only living on your roads, prescribed fire. So there's so many things that go into that. So I know everybody wants to talk about trapping and shooting predators. That culture, I grew up trapping. I trapped raccoons and possums and things like that. I didn't trap coyotes and bobcats. I still trap today.
Yeah.
I may have a raccoon in a trap right now.
I love it.
Hey, Jason's hell on some raccoons. Now he gets them little paw traps,
little cuffs,
because they tear the hell out of his feeders. Yeah. He's hell on them.
They tear them up, man. They'll rip
a solar panel
spout. Not just that, the whole dang spout.
Yeah.
And they'll get up there and they'll start spinning around.
I've seen pictures of the little cage you put on the motor. Whole
They've
raccoon
ripped
in there.
mine off. They have ripped mine off.
Yeah.
And I've got to where I'm bolting everything up, but then they're still breaking the doors on them and stuff. So.
Again, that's you're doing predator control for your feeder, right? You're not doing it.
Well, no,
you're not having a population impact.
Well, we're starting to do it.
Yeah.
Huh? Well, the guy said that he's taking what he said, like 18 off of his property, and he averaged 18. I don't remember what it was, but he started seeing more population of his turkeys. He says, so if I'm taking 18 off and somebody else taking 18 off.
But does 1 + 1 = 2, though, in that situation?
Don't know.
Where is he located? Is he out in the semi-arid regions of the state? Did they get rainfall that year? So we see a lot of things that we can contribute to, well, I did this and this happened. But so obviously that equaled that, but it's not always the
still
case.
Mother Nature has to have their
exactly.
Dude.
Well,
Jake,
I did the math. So if a bird averages 12 eggs, lays 12 eggs. So 8.4 of them are going to hatch out, I guess.
I'm talking about 70% of the nests that were initiated.
Yeah.
If a nest fails, if the hen dies, the nest is done.
Correct.
Not the eggs.
Well, I'm just saying, like on average, you're going to have 2.5 birds per nest. Is
and
what
if
it comes
you
down
look
to.
you look in a good year, right? If we see 2 poults per hen, we feel like we're doing pretty good.
Yeah,
that's insane.
She probably started
like,
with 11 or 12. That doesn't mean that she couldn't have 18 eggs in that nest. So we do this. If she's on her second nesting attempt, she's going to have fewer eggs. So she doesn't have as much energy. And third nesting attempt, things like that. But you're talking about predator control. I like to think about predator management. I had to have a goal. Like if I'm going to do prescribed burning, I have a goal. This is what I'm trying to achieve. Turkey is on that list. So you're talking about those TMOs and those the people that they're just investors in land, right? Mm-hmm. Their only goal is money. If your goal encompasses wild turkeys and things like that, and you want to set up a strategy to go out and target predators while you're doing habitat work, you have a set goal. Mm-hmm. So you have an idea of what that population, like a deer survey, you have a predator survey, you know what the population is on that landscape. I like to say you need to have a trap day per acre of land. So if I'm managing 1,000 acres, that's 1,000 trap nights. That's not a little bit of effort. That takes time and commitment.
Work. Yeah.
To have, and you're doing it annually. It's not a one and done.
Right.
Because today, who else is doing that? Do you have a neighbor that's trapping? Probably not.
No.
And so you look at
heck, we don't have everybody on the leash trapping.
Exactly. I hear that the bobcat fur market is up right now. It's like higher than it's ever been.
For Texas cats?
I don't know about that.
We don't get the good spots in Texas like they do up north.
So you're talking about, and let me write this down because there's something else I want to ask. You were talking about like the habitat and stuff, and I think that's in that movie, which it's on YouTube. Like anybody can go watch it for free. The Colonel and the Fox, and it's a little slow at times. Like I don't care that the Colonel got married in 1943. Like whatever. But there's some good information in there. And the hunting club that they started at was Choctaw Bluff. I don't know how many acres it is, but it's a bunch. And they shut down hunting for like 3 or 4 years because that's where they started their repopulation at, okay? And I'm sure that they did a lot of habitat control and things like that. They basically said, we're going to create this hunting club is going to be a haven for turkeys. And that's what it took to get that population really booming. Because I guess what you were saying with having the other groups of turkeys that they can breed with, they created like a super concentrated source for turkeys. And then as they began repopulating around that, they could kind of continue to mix and match with those birds. It makes a lot of sense, which is, I guess, why it was very, very successful. Do you guys have like a checklist when you sign up with, which I'm assuming, does somebody sign up with you guys to say my land is going to, you may approach them and say, hey, would y'all be interested in this or what? If they sign up, is there like a list of things that they have to check off?
Absolutely.
To work with to ensure that has the best possible, those turkeys have the best possible chance of survival?
Yeah. So if somebody reached out to me and said, I want to stock turkeys, first of all, where are you located in the landscape? Are you within one of our priority landscapes? With the knowledge right off the bat that it is hard to get our hands on eastern turkeys these days. It was a lot easier in 2007 before all these turkey declines
And so you guys are in East Texas are focused on bringing eastern birds in.
For the most part.
Okay.
And we can talk about that on the Trinity River, some of the work we're doing over there,
Sure.
and doing some genetic work.
But right here,
we put
like
both subspecies
Okay.
in.
All right.
So if you look at the Sulphur River, we just wrapped up Hopkins County near Sulphur Bluff. Took us 3 years to get to 80 birds plus released on that landscape, just because it's hard to get birds. We're getting birds from Maine, South, the Minnesota border, in South Dakota. We got birds from Rhode Island this year. So we used to get birds from South Carolina and Tennessee, Iowa, and all those have dried up. So just getting your hands on birds, that's the first thing I have to tell that landowners. Hey, it's not easy. We're not even doing our evaluations right now. Whenever it was going hot and heavy, we would, and we still have it, we have a fact sheet send out. These are our focal areas. Are you within that focal area? Okay, check that box. Can you get 10,000 acres in that landscape of neighbors? Contiguous. Can have holes, doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, check that box. You don't have these major fragmenting features in the landscape. So a lake, you're trying to do it all the way around a lake rather than a big block of land.
I just drew a line. I'm pretty sure that's Sulphur River.
The Sulphur River is going to be up there by Delta County.
Okay, no, I just did the Sabine River.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, hold on. Keep talking.
Yeah. So we have all these this checklist. Do you meet these variables? If they do, that landowner requests to be restocked. I'll go have a landowner meeting with everybody that's involved or some representative for that individual. We go to have a workshop. This is what turkeys need. This is what we'll do if we're going to restock. Check that box. Get all their maps. We do a GIS evaluation. So basically, you have to have a minimum of 50% forested landscape and a maximum of 93.5 or 92.5% forested landscape. We want it to be at least 15% open. Permanent openings is what we really want. That's hard to find in these. What
is that? Explain that to me.
A permanent opening?
Yeah, like a pasture.
Pasture, an old field, anything like that. Something not a clear cut that's about to turn back into a forest.
Gotcha.
So something that's permanently set aside to be.
Because a lot of times in like late morning, you'll see them turkeys out in them openings picking grasshoppers and stuff.
Yeah, those openings are, depends on who you ask, in my opinion, extremely important for sustaining. Get that poult from 3 inches tall to flying to in a tree. They need those permanent openings. There's more insects in there if it's a well-managed permanent opening.
Right.
So we make sure we have a good distribution of those. So I don't want 15% of this area down here in the bottom southeast corner of the 10,000 acres to be open. Everything else is closed canopy forest. I want good distribution. So those are some of the things we check off from a GIS endpoint. That's your first pass or fail. Then we'll go out in May and June. May and June is important because that's when nesting is wrapping up and the majority of your poults are hatching. And that's when your habitat has to be critical. I can go show you adult birds in Menard County on overgrazed crap doing just fine. But you got to get out of being 3 inches tall and 5 inches tall and 6 inches tall to become an adult bird to use that. So
once they're an adult bird, like their chances like dramatically increase at survival. Okay.
Absolutely. The biggest mortality factor for an adult gobbler is me and you.
Okay.
So and the hens, it's sitting on a nest.
Yeah.
So we're going to do that evaluation during May and June because that's nesting and brood rearing. We want to make sure the nesting habitat looks like it needs to and the brood rearing habitat looks like it needs to. And you have to get a 70, like in school, get a C+. You got to pass, and we rank you against everybody else. We evaluated. Top site gets stocked first, work our way down the list until we run out of sites or birds or money. And lately it's been a bird issue.
How much money are you? How much money is the state pumping into the repopulation estimate?
Man, I mean, I could tell you just on the purchase of birds, it's $525 per bird.
Good God!
And to say purchase, we're basically reimbursing that state for a resource they're losing.
Sure.
Right.
Their time, their effort. $25 of that goes to NWTF to help cover some of the administrative fees. Another way NWTF helps us is getting over that Lacey Act, moving birds
across state lines.
So $525 per bird. 80 birds, do the math, like $42,000. So that's just for the birds. That doesn't count my time,
transportation,
the rest of the staff's time, my truck getting there, the flight to get them there, the boxes at $10, $12 a pop that each bird's in.
They fly
health
birds?
Test. They fly birds if they're coming from certain areas. If we got a bird from Missouri, or if we get a bird from, Iowa, we might drive those. But when you're talking about Rhode Island and Maine and South Carolina, for the most
is there
part,
a mortality rate in the transport of birds?
Yeah, I mean, there's what we call capture myopathy. So you take a rocket net and shoot that over a bird. You got these big 10-pound rockets that are flying through the air. There's a chance a bird's going to get hit by the net, the rocket, flopping in there, break a wing. There's all kinds of things that can happen. So to bring birds into Texas, they have to pass some health tests. So an avian influenza test is something that, if a turkey gets it, it's going to die pretty quick.
Right.
Probably everybody around it's going to die. But it has to pass that test, and this is mainly driven by the poultry industry, and then pleurum typhoid. So it's just salmonella. So if they're not positive for either one of those, they're good. But then we have to get a vet to look at them. Each bird looks at them like, yeah, that bird's healthy. It doesn't have pox on its head. Doesn't have broken wings. Doesn't have guts coming out of its backside, from some injury. They have to pass all those before they can go on the ground. So it's a
what percent, if you had, let's just 80, or say 100, you got 100 birds you're bringing in, what have you seen, like how many of those hit the ground? Is
95%.
Okay, all right.
Plus.
Gotcha.
No, we have really good survival.
I was just kind of curious because it's a lot to, like you said, capture, and like that show, the Colonel and Fox, like they show those nets being launched.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it can be violent.
Yeah, and then they show the birds, like they get caught in a net, they're raising hell.
Yep.
They don't want to be in that net.
Yep.
And so that, and then just transporting them in general, like there's just a lot that goes into that.
And you're talking about a bird that lives in the wild being caught in a transport box for 48 hours.
Yeah.
A lot of times.
Yeah.
To meet all those tests and
do
check
y'all,
those boxes.
when they ship them, do they go directly to where they're going to be released most of the time?
So that's another part of bringing those birds into the state. They have to stay in our facilities until they've passed all those tests. So you trapped the birds this morning, shot the net over them, got them all banded with Texas leg bands. You drew blood. You overnight that blood to the Texas Veterinary Lab in Center, Texas, right? So that's a 24-hour turnaround just on getting the blood to them. They know the blood's coming. They're getting ready for it. They're going to run those tests. That's another 24-hour test. So during that process, we're allowed to go ahead and import those birds and hold them in our facility. So a Parks and Wildlife office, WMA, something like that. Until those tests are negative, we can't take those birds to the release site. But generally 48 hours is about our turnaround. 48,
How often do y'all do this?
Every year.
Once a year?
It just depends on other states. So we can talk about the Trinity River here in a little bit.
The only reason I'm asking, because I'd love to come check it out.
Absolutely.
I didn't know it was in Center, Texas.
Yeah,
That's
I
cool.
lived in
the lab's in Center, Texas, where they.
Okay.
So you talk about it's the Texas Veterinary Medical Diagnostic Labs, part of the A&M system.
Okay.
They have them in Gonzales. They have them in College Station.
Gonzales.
Come and take it.
it.
That's right.
We got family down there.
Yeah. We go to a family reunion every year.
Cool.
That's good country.
Yeah. Good barbecue.
Is there
Lots of turkeys.
talking about a facility? What is it? The Angelina National Forest.
Yep.
Is there a turkey facility there?
What do you mean a facility?
Like where they raise the turkeys?
No, that doesn't happen in Texas anymore. From a government standpoint, there's a law on the books that says that you cannot release pen-raised birds for the purpose of establishing a population. So it's legislative that releasing this pen-raised birds to establish a population is illegal in Texas. It's hard to enforce.
Yeah.
But it's illegal, and I would
So like
discourage anybody from doing it because
Yeah.
you're basically training those bobcats to target turkeys. You're introducing disease. There's some genetic work going on right now. We're seeing a lot of these heritage birds. A wild turkey doesn't care. There's a hen over there ready, showing the right posture. I'm going to go breed her.
Is that where the smoke-colored turkeys come from? You know what I'm
it's
talking
debatable. Yeah, they smoke phase, the white turkeys.
Those are beautiful in my
They are
opinion.
cool birds. We
Golly.
put a GPS unit on a bird outside of Lockhart.
Good barbecue.
I'm getting old enough that everything's 5 or 10 years ago, so I don't know the exact date.
I'm trying to remember where.
But so we mark those birds, and if you look at the old Wild Turkey book, Biology and Management, it says that is a natural occurring feature on the landscape. They are doing some genetic work. Dr. Mike Chamberlain and I'll butcher his name, like Phil Lavarsky or something like that, down at University of Texas El Paso, are doing some genetics work right now to look at are those heritage birds, are they wild birds that are just white or smoke faced? And it seems, it's early days, so they're still doing a bunch of that. We'll see where that falls out, but it's something that's been a curiosity for years. It's hard for us as Texas Parks and Wildlife to invest our money for the handful of white birds on the landscape to
figure out
research is expensive.
Yeah.
To say what's going on. Now, if there's this collective effort like UGA and UTEP's doing, great. We'll jump in there and contribute how we can. So we'll know a lot more very soon. It looks like it's a mix of both.
Yeah.
Early on. So
I'm trying to get, and I know that you guys are doing everything that you can. Okay, I know that, and I appreciate it more than you know, because I love turkey hunting about as much as anybody could. But like you said, once a year, depending on the birds that you can get from people, you're doing these releases. Okay, let's say twice a year, whatever. And at those releases, you're doing 80-ish birds.
That's the target.
So like when you look at the amount of acreage, and we have GIS mappers too. That's how we made this map and stuff. But I can't imagine the millions of acres that do not have a turkey season in Texas. When you look at that versus 80 to, let's say if we did it twice a year, 160 birds, like it's going to take a while.
It's going to take a while. Well, I mean, we've been doing it forever. So you look at the old block stocking areas from 1978 to 2003, but about 7,000 wild turkeys all over the landscape, 50-something counties.
Yeah.
So it was a shotgun approach.
Yeah.
And it worked everywhere else. Why wouldn't it work in Texas? But whatever, you got a decade of drought here, you got a decade of wet here.
Yeah.
Things change from decade to decade, and maybe that just wasn't the best couple of decades to be trying that effort. I don't know.
This sounds kind of like a dumb question, and I'm not trying to be an asshole. Like, I'm not. But, like, do you feel confident in the strategy that y'all are doing right now, like the lateral stalking? Like that's the right way to do it? Are you?
I think it's our best opportunity for success.
Okay, because sometimes people lay in bed at night and are like, "Why the hell are we doing this?
Yeah,
sure. This is dumb. This ain't gonna work."
No, I hang my hat on that daisy chain approach up those major riparian areas. I wish we could identify more. The difficult thing, we talk about 1 or 2 restorations, restocking events a year. In those eastern counties, we're doing multiples along the Trinity River with Rio Grande wild turkeys.
Okay.
So around 2014 and 15, we stocked Gus England Wildlife Management Area and a few other areas around there.
What counties? Can you tell me what
Anderson County.
Okay.
So
that's what we're doing.
Yeah, scroll down to Tavares on the map.
So the stuff you guys, where you hunt, that was, the original was 2007, 2008. It was our super stocking research. So we let a bunch of birds go. We call it a super stocking.
Trinity's on the west side of
Trinity's
Anderson?
the west side of Anderson County.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And 287 is the little yellow line that goes up towards Corsicana from Palestine. So you're looking central Anderson County is Palestine. Everything east on the Neches River has been eastern wild turkeys for the most part. And over 287, it splits Gus England Wildlife Management Area, about 12,000 acres. And we stocked that in 2014 with eastern wild turkeys. The next couple of years, we stocked multiple places near there with eastern wild turkeys. In 2016, we started releasing Rio Grande wild turkeys at Gus England Wildlife Management Area and several other areas. Hundreds of birds. And today we have a contract with University of North Texas to look at the genetic profile of those birds, what survived, what didn't survive. So we have multiple states that contribute to that for eastern birds. We have multiple regions in Texas where we caught those Rios from people that don't like Rios.
Right.
Large landscapes, and moved them in there. So are we creating a hybrid? Is that hybrid bird doing the best? Are we creating, or did the eastern just outperform, or the Rios outperforming? If we can answer that, that'll help us direct, what should be our next step on the subspecies. If Rios just aren't working on the Trinity River, then we might as well walk away. But we know Rios up in Tarrant County on the Trinity River, the same watershed, are thriving. They're doing just fine. But then you got DFW preventing those birds from coming over. We got birds thriving just west of I-35. You get just east of I-35 and they're not there because the I-35 corridor is a huge barrier, and also it's a landscape change.
Gotcha, man.
So we are doing multiple restockings because the Rios are available to us. We don't have the same restrictions. I can catch them this morning, release them this afternoon, that sort of situation. A huge effort from across the state with our staff. So I'd say since 2014, maybe 1,300 Easterns have been released, and since 2016, about the same number, maybe a few more Rios have been released. But focusing on that landscape, there are people who would like to see us take Rios further east, but I'd like to let it be data driven. So we actually have done the work along the Trinity River with the goal from day one. We're pulling feathers out of the eastern wild turkeys that we're collecting, that we collected back in those days. We collect blood from the Rios that we captured. So we know the genetic profile of those birds. Mm-hmm. Now we can go in and test their offspring to see what's still there.
Are they substantially different, the DNA makeup of
No.
Eastern and Rio?
No, it's not. I mean, there's just a couple of, it's the same species.
Yeah.
You can look at, like all of us in the room, 99% of us is the same DNA. It's just this fragment of difference, and that's what they're looking for. Just that little tiny bit of difference.
Out of curiosity, so what we saw on our lease, and everybody knows we hunt Bird Mountain. Have you heard?
Yeah,
okay.
For sure.
So
I can pull up a map on the laptop, show you where you're at.
That's a mean place, brother. Yeah. I mean, like it'll rip your heart out.
Walk you something, man. With us, we tear crap up all the time over
there.
I
got some pretty cool terrain there too.
But yeah, we've had, like I said, it was like 12, 15 birds that we constantly see, walking through. And I just realized I never saw a tom, ever saw a tom with it. I know there's a bunch of outlaws out there, like a bunch of outlaws. As soon as they found, oh man, there's some turkey, blah blah blah. I'm going to tell you, no, don't do it. Y'all GPS the toms at least, or like have something.
For the most part, we focus on the hens. But,
okay, yeah. Because without a tom, you don't have have any babies. And do y'all release more than one tom in a group of 15 and all that?
So back in the day when we did the block stocking, that'd be the 15 to 20 birds per release site. It was 3 toms for every 12 hens was the goal, or 5 toms for every 15 hens. So we try to release 3 hens for every gobbler that we release on the landscape.
Is that because the mortality rate of the hens is probably higher?
The hens, and historically and it might be a little low, but historically the idea is that one tom can breed multiple hens. He puts zero effort into the reproductive effort other than breeding that hen. So he breeds her, he turns and he looks over here. It's like there's
a hard job, man.
And one tom does most of the breeding. He's boss tom.
He's a big dog.
Yeah.
Ah, I didn't know that. Yeah. Huh? Did not know that.
And his brothers that are in the group are just like, I'll watch your back, man.
Yeah. And see, I guess that's opposite for deer. The big mature deer don't really get it all that much. All the little ones go get it. So from my understanding, I don't know.
But like I said, there's multiple paternity in almost every nest. So he might be the boss, but
he ain't the only game in town. Backstabbing, boy, I tell you.
Do y'all rely on volunteers at all when it comes to the restocking, or is it kind of like we got it under control?
No, we got it under control for the most part. Every time we do a release, we try to invite, especially the Easterns, because you have that 48-hour window. You got a lot more time to coordinate that sort of stuff. So we try to put it out to the state board and let them invite local chapter members, things like that, to those releases. With the Rio, and it's almost always private property, but for the most part, the private landowners are welcoming to let people come in. Mm-hmm. It seems like this exciting thing. I'm going to go do a turkey release, but it's pretty anticlimactic. You open the box,
they fly off, and
you just drove 2 hours, and it's over in 30 seconds.
Yeah. So, good point, though. You said it's most always private property. Yeah. When we look at this map again, and you see Davy Crockett National Forest, which is pretty substantial. A lot of other, Texas isn't known for being a big public land state. Okay, we've done the statistics before, and I don't even remember what it is. But do y'all ever focus on these national forests at all with the restocking, or is it mainly like I would prefer to do it on private because of?
No, it's not a preference. I let the habitat drive that. One thing about our national forest is we aren't. And no shade on the national forest, but we are not cutting timber on the national forest. We have really high basal areas. We do not have permit openings unless it's a pipeline or a road going through the national forest. I talked about a goal of 15% opening, mandatory no more than 7.5% or less than 7.5% opening. You don't see that on the national forest.
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean that the national forest couldn't pair with private property around it to get those pastures and those openings, but we also want to see a good distribution. So they could contribute to that, but if I was just to go look at a national forest, chances are it wouldn't pass our HSI. And it's not because they're not burning, but a lot of it's because they don't have the permit openings, and just from a habitat standpoint, there's some really good stuff happening, but there's also some work that could be done, but turkeys aren't their priority.
Now, that's what I was fixing to get at. It's a shame because zoom out, Tavares. It is a shame because when you go, even the whole state, when you look at basically, I don't know, let's say a fifth of the state does not have turkey, and we don't really give a crap about the Panhandle or West Texas. Like,
I love it.
They can. I mean, that's a totally different area, but. When you look at East Texas, like it's about a fifth of the state, and that's a pretty substantial area of a state that does not have wild turkeys.
Yeah.
And it's a shame that it's not being looked at a little bit more seriously, even from a federal. And maybe they are. Maybe they give you guys a bunch of. I don't know, but like it's a big deal.
Yeah.
You know, for one whole species. Of an animal to not be in a fifth of Texas, which you said earlier, like this is South Carolina basically, right?
Yep.
South Carolina, like
30 million acres.
Yeah, it doesn't have any turkeys.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't know. It just kind of it blows my mind that a little bit more, maybe not as much attention's being given to this as what it maybe should be.
Yeah.
You know, we had an article in the news a while back, Paul, about them genetically creating dire wolves.
That's why I was asking about
and releasing
cloning.
them.
Yeah.
Like there's like a group of like 5 or 6 dire wolves that are very healthy and live. It's freaking dire wolf though.
Yeah.
Like what's like it freaking eat anything it wanted to, but like they're concerned about dire wolves, but they're not concerned about turkeys.
And I'm not sure who's funding that work, but
it's private. But still.
Yeah. Now there's a lot of interest in game management. There's a lot of interest, but you also, if you laid the population density on that, you look at DFW, huge population center, I-45 all the way south, developed almost all the way down, go down to Houston. You go over to San Antonio, you go up to Austin, Temple. That is a huge landscape of unoccupied for birds, but it's overwhelmingly occupied by people.
That's the most
That's where
industry.
the cutoff is,
Absolutely.
45. and
Yeah.
stuff
So
like
if you think about, some of the drivers on that landscape, you got the Blackland Prairie through there that probably never hosted a lot of turkeys. It's you got some riparian corridors. It might be better habitat in some of that area now than it's been in the last 100 years. The Post Oak Savanna in that landscape, it could be called the Post Oak Yopon Complex, Bermuda Grass Complex. Almost everything looks the same when you go through the Post Oak Savanna. It's closed canopy forest with a choked understory of Yopon holly, and next to it is Bahia or Bermuda grass fields that are probably sprayed and mowed every single year. So we go back to culture, right?
Yeah.
So the culture of that landscape this is how it's done. Growing up, those woods are for my deer. I don't mess with them.
Yeah.
Well, if you aren't messing, then you're not managing whatever percentage of your property is forested. And if you're not managing it, you can't. Turkeys require purposeful management in East Texas.
Yes.
You get too much rainfall, and they need disturbance. If that's timber thinning, if it's burning, whatever, they need it. Grazing. If your only disturbance is I cut that for hay, I mow this because I like it to look like my golf course or a golf course. Goat weed's a bad thing, and all these weeds are a bad thing. That's a cultural problem that we have, and changing that culture is not easy.
No, it's not, because I'm very. How many times have you heard me say, Jason, I want my deer stand areas to look like a park. Like that's part of the enjoyment that I get is a nice green food plot that looks pretty.
Yep.
Because I can sit there and look at that when I don't see no deer. So I'm just as guilty as anybody.
And there's nothing wrong with that. Those turkeys, a good open forest understory, that food plot's got value, but you also got to have the weeds out on some of that property. You have to have native warm season grasses, bunch grasses that little birds can navigate through versus the carpet grasses that are out there on the landscape. So there's a lot of stuff that can be done, and you talked about the investments. We get, as hunters, we all contribute to the federal aid and wildlife restoration. So PR dollars. If you buy guns and ammunition, you are contributing to that fund. We sell a lot of hunting licenses in Texas. We're a big state. We get a lot of money generally, especially when gun and ammo sales are up. Coming back to Texas, and we've invested that money in research and put Texas Parks and Wildlife gets those funds. And we invest that in research, and turkeys have gotten a lot of research in the last 10, 15 years. And we also have invested that in on-the-ground habitat work, taking up PR dollars. And it comes because it's federal dollars. It's got a lot of red tape to jump through. But we figured out ways to put those dollars on the ground. So there are investments. It's a Texas decision to do that work. It's not the federal government. The federal government has to approve those specific dollars. There's lots of cool things happening on the landscape, but scaling it up and having that impact on culture.
What oppositions do you guys face when it comes to your repopulating efforts? And I mean, I'm talking like government, like if there's some congressman I don't need to vote for, or, which I know you ain't gonna say, but you know what I'm saying. Like, are there oppositions that you run into that are just like big roadblocks, or do you have a pretty open road to doing your job?
I think we have a pretty open road. There's I would say a lot of hands in the cookie jar. That's not the right approach, because there's a lot of people who deserve those funds as much as I do.
Yeah.
And the turkey program, but it's just you're trying to get your piece of the pie. And
are you pretty happy with the budget that you have, or
no?
Like,
I want more money.
Okay.
No, I want lots more money.
Does money is money one of the
limiting
main
factors?
things that are limiting
Absolutely.
you? Okay.
No, funds are it's always a limiting factor. So you can only have so many staff doing the work. You can only have so many people. Most of our staff are responsible for 4 counties. I'm responsible for the entire state from a turkey standpoint. You could spread these people out. Whenever you're talking about doing prescribed fire, if I have 12 staff in one district, and there are 2 districts in all of East Texas, right? And I have 12 staff. We have 12 staff running that. If you got a burn day, a good burn day, where do you send them? You're going to get 1 or 2 burns done that day with that many staff.
Yeah.
So it's just how much impact can you have, and so funding's a part of it. I think our leadership, they have the will and the interest in seeing good habitat work done. Man, it's a win whenever we open a box and let turkeys out.
Oh,
it's a win
yeah.
when somebody's sending pictures on social media, like, look at this turkey that's over here and it's got a band on its leg.
Yeah.
We're not getting any bad press for doing turkey restaurants. You just invited me here to talk about turkeys.
Yeah.
We're not getting bad press from what we're doing for the Wild Turkey Program. You get a couple of things when you make regulation changes, and nobody's ever completely happy. But we got to make tough decisions sometimes.
Yeah,
but funding's an issue. Culture's an issue. So I would say that, you talk about industrial forests. Turkeys aren't on most of the radars for industrial forests. If you want to give us money to do this burn or this mid-story herbicide treatment to try to cut back on Yellow Pond, yeah, we'll take your money, but it won't become a part of our regular program.
Right.
Because like you said, these aren't even people that live in Texas.
Right.
These are people that live somewhere else as an investment. It's just seen as dollars on the ground or, a portfolio.
Yeah.
So culture's an issue, funding's an issue, access to birds from out of state as far as the Easterns go.
We're just going to cut their oil off.
Yeah.
Lead the way.
What can the 5 of us in this room do to help population growth in Texas?
Yeah, if you have access to land and you can do good habitat work, that's the first thing. Especially if you're in an area that has birds. Anything you do is going to help out wildlife. You're going to benefit other things out there. Water. Water is about to be a huge, huge issue for us. But doing good habitat work, if you have access to the means, if you're leasing property and you have a little bit of leverage to daylight roads or something along those lines, that's things you can do. Report your observations. You guys are the eyes and ears on the landscape. One biologist for 4 county isn't covering the landscape and seeing what's going on in your backyard. You see 12 hens on your lease. You see these different birds, different places. Let us know. That helps us out. Being that good citizen science is a part of it. Buying your hunting license, buying your open game bird stamp.
Can you do more financially, like directly fund you guys? Like if we were to write a check, can we do that?
You could work with our partners like the National Wild Turkey Federation. You can individuals could make individual contributions to that. They're a great partner in that way. We have other partners that could do that. You could make a direct contribution to Parks and Wildlife and your market. Say, I want this to go for Eastern turkey restoration to Parks and Wildlife, but that's not as that's harder than
Yeah.
giving it to
More
our
red
give it
tape
to
to-
our partners.
Yeah,
So
that makes
the
sense.
Texas State
Give it to your
chapter of
partners.
NWTF.
Cool.
You go in there and say, I want you to direct these funds for habitat work on WMAs or for waterways for wildlife or things like that. You can have direct contributions, and there are people in the state that you can make those direct contributions to. Again, every penny helps, but programs where we're creating large sums of money, and there are other states that have example, the small sales tax on gas, things like that. But that's not something that I'd rather talk about turkeys than
Yeah,
Well,
man. That's,
you know
no,
what?
yeah.
I'm not a funding developer, but
Well, we might have
there
some
are ideas out there.
We might have some listeners on the show because you said like your number one deal is like money. I would love to have more money. Man, there might be somebody that writes a check that like changes the game a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
And maybe there's people that have the ear of the landowners,
Right.
that want to help move that needle, the culture needle, a little bit. We're seeing properties get smaller and smaller all the time, and I don't think that's going to change.
No, it's not. That's a huge problem, and that's why I'm like, I feel like, time is against us in this thing, and we got to do whatever we can to get them established and get a healthy population before it's crazy. I mean, I just go back to like we drive through Florida. From where we hunt to Gainesville is probably about an hour, so we drive south an hour. And the whole time, the guy that we're with is like, man, there's turkey in them woods right there. There's turkey in them. There's turkeys everywhere, And I just, I want it to be that way in East Texas so bad. But I know that it's such a hard battle to do.
If pen raised birds worked,
yeah, it wouldn't be a big deal.
We'd do it, man.
Yeah.
We'd be all about it.
Well,
and that's the only way you're going to get the big numbers. So otherwise, it's us spending time on a net, baiting, making huge. I drive 6 hours one way to go set up a trap, let it sit there for a week, go back and trap the birds the next week, another 6 hours.
Because you got to let them
one way.
get used to it and coming in.
That's it. Yeah. I mean, these traps they're not something common on their landscape, and the birds are going to look at them sideways for a while.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just saying it's a huge commitment. I'm one person, and I'm driving 6 hours, and we got multiple staff to do that every time. One person doesn't trap and move those birds, so it's local staff, it's people from across the state, and then you're working with your partners. There's a lot going on, and you can only do so much.
Yeah.
Well, is there something that like the bigger companies, like the timber companies, can do? Because I still keep thinking of our lease and all that, which is all forest and everything, clear cuts all the time, but we got huge pastures all around us and all that. So I'm assuming that's how y'all got it, where y'all got the agreement with these people, with the timber company and all that. But it just seems like to me, with the company we're dealing with, they want to boast, hey, we're members of this. We're members of this. Then
It's
we
PR,
have to, and we're turning in all of our observation cards because we have to do that, and it is specific to where it is a morning evening sit. So we hunt twice in one day, 3 times in one day. We have 3 entries in observation. But if we are driving at any time of the year and we spot a turkey, we are to report it right then and there. So it's like, oh, we're going to do this, but they are not doing their part of habitat control, of getting the underbrush cleared out, or whatever it may be, and I'm just sitting here thinking that on one part of the lease they hear turkeys. Well, they're hearing turkeys closer to the river bottom, which has no timber cut on it, and I have walked down there and looked at the terrain, and it is open,
when it's not flooded.
Exactly.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
When it's not flooded.
But you got all that right in there, so could there be something, oh yeah, I'm just not going, corporation wise, I'm not going to just be a part of, the National Wild Turkey Federation. I've got to do something to help out with it.
Yeah. If you have control of property in an industrial forest, for example, something that would be beneficial to both the company and the land and the turkeys, daylight your roads. So you daylight your roads, you're going to take those first 2 rows out on either side. You're creating a permanent opening. You got herbaceous. Turkeys want to be on the roads. They use them for travel corridors. You could actually do that to try to move turkeys from one part of your lease to another. Daylighting your roads. You create a permanent opening. They get the benefit of sunlight hitting that road. Whenever they're doing logging events, they're going to have better maintained roads through that daylighting process. So I think there are things like that. It's hard to get them to commit to a 5-10 acre food plot or a permanent opening that just sits out there not producing. But the daylighted roads is something that they can do. The prescribed fire, that's getting harder and harder with industry. But if there's a way to get prescribed fire on the ground, that's huge. And it's going to benefit them for multiple different ways. It reduces fuels on the landscape. So if they do have another 2011 or 2022 and we're seeing these wildfires, you're actually protecting that timber from those ladder fuels that are actually going to destroy your timber through you making a decision when and how to burn. So there are things like that could be seen as investments to benefit them and the wild turkey.
Yeah, the timberland thing, the more I sit here and think about it, it's harder and harder. Like there's just obstacles.
There are insurance companies that own timberland now. You tell an insurance company, I want to burn this.
Yeah, and but here's the deal. Like, and I'm going back to even this. Like the reason why I'm not in the timber industry no more is because it don't make no money. Like it is a industry that is starving the people that work for it. I mean, I'm just going to be completely honest. It's completely starved. So getting the people that are permitted to do the prescribed burns is going to be harder and harder because nobody wants to do it. Like I used to back in the 90s, you would ask people around here, like, what are you going to go to college for? They'd be forestry. We're going to SFA to be forced to graduate for the forestry degree.
Panola College had a deal.
Nobody wants to do that anymore, because like it's just that whole industry's choking. I don't know. That's a whole nother.
You can go down a rabbit hole with that, but like the mills, you can't even take big timber to mills anymore.
Yeah,
their market is smaller timber now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which pulls away from those long stand ages or those older stand ages.
Yep.
Once you get to a 30-year-old stand, you're almost out of being in the market anymore.
Yeah, 30 years is when they clear cut and replant. So we got our work cut out for us, for sure. But, man, look, we've been going at this for a while, and I figure we're going to take you out to get some Tex-Mex, so if that's cool. But is there anything, like, can people follow Texas Parks and Wildlife, the Turkey Program, on any social media platforms or anything? Y'all got anything specially created for that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a 51-year-old man, and I have enough social media to see what my daughter's doing in college, So
you need to get on the TikTok, man. Get on the TikTok.
Don't know about that.
He's busy, man.
But no, there's a small game program like Instagram, and then lots of stuff on Parks and Wildlife. We contribute to different social media programs. Every district usually has their own newsletter or social media platform. Again, not my strong suit.
Yeah.
But,
is the best way for us to support the repopulation of turkeys in East Texas is to join like NWTF?
Yeah, join NWTF, show up, just be a good member and just show up at the banquets. Go enjoy the party.
Yeah,
spend
get
a
you
little
free
money.
Gun or cooler or something.
That's right.
Yeah.
And again, with that social science standpoint, if you can get with us, we're trying to develop an app through Survey 123, so you can put those install observations in something like that. Like, boom, I did it, and it's on my phone, and it's in a central database. So as we develop those programs, I think that's going to be a good way for you guys to contribute. Just the guy out in the field who saw turkeys. I
think that's a great idea. Yeah. Like, because now you don't even have to buy. Like, you don't even get you don't have to get a paper license, and you can do your harvest report on your phone. If there was a spot that was like, report a turkey, and you click that button and report it, that'd be phenomenal.
One thing I think it's going up our website pretty quick. So again, we do have statewide mandatory harvest reporting. Kind of that circle feedback loop for our hunters is we actually are putting a map out there that you can go and click on a county and see how many birds have been reported harvested for that county.
That is awesome.
For that season. So it's developed. It just has to get posted. And so it's going to be really cool and a great feedback loop. And I hope hunters will continue to do that harvest reporting. We had our small game harvest survey forever. We're getting like 10% reporting rates now.
Really?
It's just
because they don't have to.
No, it's voluntary.
Yeah.
So just the lack of data was becoming a problem. That survey goes out February every year, right before spring turkey season.
Yeah.
So we were getting our spring turkey hunting data a
year
and
later.
a half later. So we just weren't in real time. So the mandatory harvest reporting is going to help us do a better job of managing our turkey populations in the state. It's citizen science contributing to that. If you love turkey hunting, and we have legislation, I cannot tell people where you harvested that turkey.
Yeah.
I see a customer number. I don't know your name, so no one's coming to your personal lease and trying to hunt turkeys. We cannot report that at any scale finer than the county, and that's legislative.
That's
so
great.
Don't feel. I hope people won't feel concerned about Big Brother. If you walk around with an iPhone in your pocket, I got some company listening to me talk right now.
Hey, I guarantee you, when we get off this podcast and we open up social media, it's all going to be turkey hunting.
Yeah.
So they're listening anyway.
Yeah. But the state of Texas Parks and Wildlife isn't listening.
Gotcha.
we all we want to do is do what is best for the wild turkey.
Yeah. Well, that's good stuff, man. Well, hey, man, thank you for being on the show.
Yes, sir.
I know you
Appreciate
drove
the
a little
invitation.
bit to get here. Means the world to me. It really, really does, because this was something that I wanted to spotlight and bring some attention to, because it's such a, you got a hard job. You got a big job. And it's enjoyable as it sounds, which I'd love it, but it's still a pretty daunting task to complete. So I appreciate you taking time out of your day to come and do this. And hopefully, someone like Paul said will write a big check or something as a result of this.
Absolutely.
But anyway, guys, look, thank y'all for listening. We really appreciate it. We'll be back next week with the great and awesome Nick Munt as well. So y'all be sure to listen next week to that one. Follow us on Instagram at the Huntcast, also on YouTube at the Huntcast podcast. Or no, that's just at the Huntcast, and on TikTok at the Huntcast podcast. Jason, thank you so much for being here, man. And hey, I'd love to do this again a year or two later, and let's see if we've made any progress. All right,
Awesome, man. Sounds good.
All right, thank you guys for listening so much. For Paul, Jason, myself, we are out.